So what do you think are the biggest pitfalls or the most like developers early in their career can fall into?
Every game developer in every interview gets asked this a lot, and sometimes I just don't want to say it because I want them to fall into those pitfalls.
Right.
I want them to get trapped and to feel it and to know what those pitfalls are, and to find out on their own why those are pitfalls. In telling someone not to do something, they won't do it, and they won't discover like what the problem is.
Why not to do it?
So a lot of game developers will be like, oh, every game, don't try to make something big right away because you'll never finish it. But so what? Try to make the biggest game you can, like all of us did the first time. Like I did it, and it didn't determine. Like I didn't make money, and I didn't finish it, but it was great and super fun.
Like Dean Dodgerell's like first game was Dust. Right?
Yeah, and then you're some freak of nature like Dean Dodgerell, and then you finish your first gigantic RPG game that you did everything for except for sound, except for the sound and music. Yeah, some people are just like that. Like Joachim Sandberg, who's making his sort of dream game right now, the Iconoclasts, where he's doing all the art for it and all the music. It's like some people are superhuman, but those people are also older and they've been creating things. Yeah. Like they're both around 30-ish, if not 30 yet. I think they're both around about the same age. Yeah, so they've been doing creative stuff all their life, so they know a lot of that. So these people didn't come out of nowhere and create a game. Yeah. They've been doing contract work, they've been doing illustration and art, and they know about compromise and they know about deadlines. So these aren't just nobodies. So it doesn't really pay to get jealous of those people. Well, you can still be jealous of them, but it's not going to serve you really.
I think it's funny.
Just respect them.
Well, jealousy is funny, right? Because there's different kinds of jealousy. Because there's a kind of jealousy that I value, which is not like angry. It's like, damn, like that's really cool, right? Like
that's admiration. That's not jealousy.
Yeah, like admiration, and that's gonna be like, damn, like like some person gets some cool job or whatever, and or makes
incredulity sometimes, which is sort of a form of admiration. It can be a form of admiration, but it's like, what? You did that on your own? What?
Yeah.
But really, they're impressed. They just can't believe it.
Yeah.
They don't really want to.
Yeah. Versus like bitterness, right? Versus,
Bitterness is, to me, in that form, is just a form of like sort of self-pity, and that doesn't really go. I'd recommend self-pity to anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, I get the older thing because I'm pretty young. The older game developers than me are like, oh, you've accomplished so much and you're younger than me. I'm like, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
It drives me up the wall. And I've seen a lot of other people, like successful comic artists and filmmakers, get that lots, and it's just it doesn't serve anybody. Some of the most like, who was it? It was a Twitter conversation I had the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but I was having a conversation with a comic artist about that, the bitterness people get, where they try to they're trying to be nice, but it actually just comes off like they send you a fan email, but their fan email really is, I suck. Like they want to revel in their self-pity in a way, and I don't blame them. But I can't.
What are you supposed to?
He's a developer from. I don't remember who. Brandon, his name is, and he said Ridley Scott didn't make Alien until he was like 45. Yeah. And then there we go, done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way to think about it. Like,
it's also
a lot of people
funny.
Don't discover what they want to do or what they're really good at.
It's funny because so many people like really, especially in the modern era, like their career proper doesn't even start until they're like 30, right? Yeah. A lot of very successful webcomic guys, right? Yeah. Started their comic when they were in their early 30s. And then and that was young as far as whoever else was concerned, right? And it's funny now that you're talking about, now I don't know, are you literally moving on from games, or are you're done?
I'm not done. I'm going to keep dabbling in games. I'm not going to make games professionally, I don't think, though. No. I'll probably do, I guess I will do it professionally in that I'll do it for money and contract work and that sort of thing.
But you won't.
I don't have any game ideas anymore. Yeah. And there's no game ideas anymore, no ideas for games.
Indefinite hiatus.
Yeah. So I'll be doing, I'm going to try just using games as a way, doing collaborations and doing the art for games as a way to exercise my drawing and things like that. So
this is the thing, is that it's interesting that so many people would be like jealous or envious. Yeah. But it's like, but in a way, like, yes, your success, but it's a part of you getting to the same, like doing the same journey they did. It's just that you maybe hit on something before they ever did, like hit on popularity or fame but they're like, oh, when I was your age, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Well, in a way, you didn't either. Right?
But everybody also has their own whole bag of worms that they're not going to talk about, that you have to realize exists, that their family probably disowns them, that kind of thing, and they don't talk about it. So it's everybody has their own problems, and sometimes people have problems as a result of them working so hard on their stuff that other parts of their life aren't as good because of that. So it's I never do that pity thing. I think I used to more. I just don't anymore. The self-pity thing, because it's
useless.
I kind of recognize now that even people that seem like they have everything don't really, and they have their own problems and things to deal with in their own way.
So what about role models? Do you have specific developers or people either in your life or like celebrities, people like Neil Gaiman that you admire, who you emulate or attempt to emulate in any way?
Don't necessarily admire Neil Gaiman. I just like his work. So
sure.
I don't really
interesting
admire
distinction
people.
to make.
I admire works of art. I like the product. I like the results and the things people create. And there's some people who create things that I love that I don't like. The people I hate, or don't hate, but I'm like, oh, that person, they rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I tried to disassociate the people with the things they make quite often. Yeah, and I just like to observe the things. I like it when people do come through in the work they make a lot, and a lot of indie games really have that. And recently, there's a lot of AAA games that are starting to really get that down too. Like games need a director, they need a voice. Movies have had that forever, but games are really starting to do it, I think. And I can't really name it like a single role model. I don't put people up on a pedestal. I don't like to. I don't think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it helps you ever get along with them. But I don't know. So, most of the successful creative people I know have role models, so I wouldn't say it's a bad thing.
No,
but I don't like to do it. I don't really like to think of people as better than me or worse than me. Even though they probably are, but maybe it's just the way I think of values is different, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're really good at this thing. That's more like an objective fact to me than something I'm jealous of or something that I look up at. It's like, that's very good. Like, maybe I'll ask them about it.
So how much time do you actually spend thinking about the industry or thinking about games? Versus
about games?
Versus that are not your own.
Oh, I see, stuff. Because I'm surrounded by creative people now, there's a lot of discussions end up there. You'll go to a party and more than half of them are creative people. So that's what you'll talk about is creative stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of time spent talking and thinking about stuff, lots.
But did you watch the VGX?
You probably know that I live in a house of game developers.
I do know.
And artists and web developers, and who regularly has people from all over the world visiting us and staying with us for weeks at a time. So that's it. We just talk about creative stuff all day long. And
so how the hell did that start?
Holy, that goes way back. Oh my gosh. It kind of starts with me meeting Matt Thorson in the game maker community way back in the day. We were part of a private game developer club.
Very elite.
Yeah, where we just made games. We just started chatting on MSN, and he was my first online friend. That's when I lived in a small town and had no game maker friends. I had friends, but nobody who knew how to make games or anything like that. So he was my first. We've been friends for 6 or 7 years now, basically since we were 16. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a while ago.
Forever ago. Oh my God.
And I visited him and we chatted and we went to game jams and that sort of thing. And eventually what ended up happening is I moved to Vancouver after I got some success and I got some jobs and working with VFS. And it was basically me just trying to convince him to move out to Vancouver because he really wanted to for just a long time because he was in Edmonton. And he just didn't like it. And then he was in Grand Prairie, and he was like, because it's not exactly a thriving game community there. And I had just moved to Vancouver, and I was like, there's a meetup of game developers, and there's game stuff going on, and we can go down to Seattle, and there's a bunch of game developers there. And he was just so he definitely had wanted to move, but he was finishing his computer science degree. So when he actually finished it, and then made a game, and then paid off his whole tuition, he was like, hey, I'm free. I can just do whatever I want now. So he moved to Vancouver, and we got a place in a crappy little apartment. Which was sort of nice, but it wasn't a place to live. And we ended up talking to Alec and Noel, who were really good friends of ours by that point, who we had met through game jams, through going to Winnipeg and doing game jams and that sort of thing. So we'd collaborated with them. Alec had done music for various friends of ours at games, and we just and they kind of wanted to get out of Winnipeg for the same reason. They tried to start a game dev community there, and it just hadn't worked. And sort of the same thing. Oh, it's so awesome over here. There's so many game developers. Yeah. So they ended up coming over as well. And then from there, it was like, okay, we're all working from home. We're all making games. We need a cheap place to live. Let's get a house. So we got a big house. And a lot of people will talk about this kind of thing, and they'll dream about it. They'll be like, well, it'd be cool if we had a house when all the game developers lived there. We just took that to the next stage. We just followed through on that and then actually did it. And it's been pretty cool. So that's just what happened. And so now we're on our second year of living there now. And lots of like Tower Falls come out of it. Night in the Woods has come out of it, and I'm becoming an artist, and we've had all kinds of people stay there. It's been great, so it's no regrets there.
Well, one of the really interesting things about the indie house, right, is it's such an interesting kind of, what's the word, what would you say? It's like a artifact of the era in which we live, that in many ways,
I agree.
Indie game developers are like the indie musicians of yesteryear in a lot of ways.
Yep. We even call game jams jams now.
Yeah.
Which is a term came from musician. We're jamming. Like
exactly.
That's where that term came from. So it's that fact isn't lost on game developers. I think they're aware of how similar the two are in a way now.
It's cool.
Just weird.
Walking around PAX, right, as well, because you're in like especially the last one, PAX Prime. There was like you've got the Behemoth and Supergiant are close to one another, and other developers like Twisted Pixel and stuff. These are even these big
Capybara.
people, right? Yeah, exactly. And they are like a lot of the time like 7, like less than 10 people.
That's
right.
The ideal.
And
if
it's
I ever
like,
was going to work in a company, it would be 6, 7.
It's
people.
like the size of a band, right? And now
I think it's the best size. I think it's the absolute best size. I think you can for the amount of content and the size of the games you can create versus how personal and affecting and how much voice and soul they have. That's what that word soul means. Really, when I was talking about before about a game having a voice, musicians just use the word soul for that. Like soul means like that kind of thing usually to a musician or to a creative person. And artwork can have it as well. But you don't see that as much in art stuff because they're usually done by single people. Yeah. Or sometimes 2 people, but usually the idea is driven by one person. Like someone will create a whole graphic novel and someone else will just color it. But the other person just colored the other person's graphic novel, really. Right. Whereas games can be a lot more of like collaborative thing, just like bands can be. But even so, bands and game companies quite often will have like a head person that kind of drives the thing. And that sometimes happens. Sometimes it's more collaborative.
Well, in film, I mean, in film really, it's pretty, I mean, this is a whole auteur theory thing, right?
Auteur, that's what I was looking for. I was trying to pull it off the top of my head. Auteur, and I was like, that's the one, auteur.
And I think it's beginning to, like, certainly, like, seeing all this stuff with Towerfall, right? Vince Zampella and what was his name? West, I forget, Jason West, right? These guys, because people say that, oh, no one, like, Call of Duty doesn't belong to anybody, right? But then there's this thing that happens where, okay, yes, it was a giant team of people that made it, certainly. Yeah. But then these guys were there. They made Call of Duty 4, which I don't know if you like Call of Duty at all.
I played the first 2, and I played Modern Warfare 1 and 2,
Yeah, I like 4, and I like Modern Warfare 1 and 2, right? Yeah. I like those. Yeah. And like Call of Duty 4, I think is
I haven't played it. So
it's brilliant. Well, it's Modern Warfare 1, right?
Okay. I didn't.
Yeah, Call of Duty 4.
I always think of those as separate kind of franchises.
It's video games. Video games with numbers.
Anyways,
confusing.
Carry on.
Well, but I'm not like a first-person shooter guy, but that is like, when it comes to first-person shooters, that's like, this is world class. And now Titanfall is coming out, right? And Titanfall looks amazing. It looks, especially it's coming at a time where everyone's sick of Call of Duty. Everyone's kind of like, geez, shooters, they're so popular, but they feel kind of creatively bankrupt, and then suddenly Towerfall's coming out. I'm like, oh, exciting. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because obviously these 2 guys didn't make either of these games on their own, but you can say, like, well, these 2 guys were at this place when this game was made, and now they're at this place when this other game is being made, right? Yeah. There seems to be some kind of connection between these guys and awesome first-person shooters.
I think a better example would be Spec Ops: The Line. You can take a franchise and then you give it to someone who then gives it a voice. Right. I think that stands out way more to me as like something you can do with a franchise. Sure. And you can create more of like something that more of an auteur kind of creation.
Well, that's a good example of one or the other, right? Yeah. Of something that was this franchise that was not notable.
Well?
Yeah, not doing well, was not notable, wasn't known for anything, right? And then and now it is, right? And now it's really known.
But I don't think 10 years from now anybody will care about Titanfall. I don't think it will be.
Yeah. Well, depends.
I don't think anybody will care about Call of Duty 4 either. But I think people will still care about
Spec Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line in 10 years from now, and that's sort of the difference to me. But it's always arrogant to kind of make that.
No, it's an interesting thing to say.
Yes, but
you may be right.
That's my guess.
It depends.
We'll see how.
Because on the other hand, a lot of people like Doom. A lot of people fondly remember Doom. All right.
Yeah, Doom was like the first, though. It was like the first good.
True.
One. Yeah.
True.
Well, it's not the first, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, it's the first of. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay.
Doom is popular, but I still think people underestimate how much effect it had on what video games are now. So.
They underestimate.
Yeah, I think people still underestimate how
important Doom was.
Important Doom is just like how people became obsessed with improving graphics, and that all came from Doom to me. Like, like the obsession with it and the player obsession with it. But Doom and Quake, it's really,
absolutely,
really set huge trends.
Yeah. Well, so how do you, thinking about this timeline of games, looking into the future, no one will care about Towerfall. People will care about Doom. They'll care about Spec Ops.
I think people will still play Towerfall, actually.
I'm sorry, I meant to say Titanfall.
Okay.
Towerfall, yeah, that's my mistake. Yes.
Yeah. It won't be like significant, but I think there will be people who really like it, like in a Smash Bros. Don't
get me wrong, Towerfall rules.
They will still pick because it'll still be playable.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Unless there's like he makes like Towerfall 2, which is better, then people are like, Towerfall 1, but Towerfall 2, and so that's what I mean. But
I want to see a crossover between Towerfall and Titanfall. A lot of money. How do you how do you look at games like Donkey Kong, like Super Mario Brothers, like the first Zelda? Do you see those as having relevance still in our culture, or are those Dooms or Titanfalls?
Well, those were sort of closer to Dooms, because what they did is they were the beginning of franchises. Doom was the beginning of a franchise, not only a franchise but also a whole genre. And Mario was the beginning of a whole genre and a whole franchise, so I do see them as related, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the genre being the platformer, where just like 10 million games have been made now that all use the exact same mechanics of Mario. And Mario, there's like 60 Mario games, maybe. I don't even know. Like it's just they come out like every year, and it's still the exact same stuff. So and same with Doom. Every game is the shotgun. Every game they both set huge trends. So and they were the games I would attribute to setting those trends. So I see them as related. And Titanfall, I don't think, is setting any massive trends. I think it's just actually using trends from Doom. I think I just see it as a result of Doom, not like Doom where it was like it erupts and created something. Yeah.
So what trend do you consider yourself to be a part of?
The part of? More like the getting single people making weird games kind of like trend, part of that. Not the start of it. I'm following in that trend. Yeah.
You're a part of
garage games,
developers.
that sort of thing.
Garage games.
Band games, that kind of thing. I'm part of that trend, and I was definitely not the start of it because it goes back way before me.
And now you're part of the webcomics trend.
Yeah, sort of. Not web though, but I'll probably be alive in some sort of digital form, which also goes way back, like Tar Crumb and even before that. But
yeah. Well, and Scott McCloud. With Zot or whatever. Yeah. So is that? I mean,
it's all sort of just auteur stuff. It's stuff that's made by small amounts of people, and that's not really necessarily a trend. It's just like a way something is made, which is a little bit different than a trend. But, yeah.
So your goal is not to be Jonathan Blow, who made a game almost by himself and then makes a team. Your goal is to continue working almost entirely on your own in whatever it is you're doing?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to run a team. I always want to make stuff. I don't want to be in charge of people making stuff. So I don't know if I could do that. I don't think I have it in me. we'll see. Maybe in 10 years, it'll be different. I'll be way better and way more composed than I am now to actually like run a company. But that won't happen for a long time yet. I have a good many years ahead of me of just making stuff. And a lot of that stuff will just be me making stuff on my own or collaborating with 1 or 2 people.
Yeah. How often do you think about 10 years from now?
It's funny. For me, it can be a month and I'll be doing a completely different thing. So 10 years is like, it's like the creation of the world to me. So yeah, but I will still be doing creative stuff. For me, on the 10-year run, I want to get involved in a lot more culturally significant projects. I want to start getting involved with museums and bigger collectives and that things. I would love to do works for museums. I would like to do culturally significant work. I would love to create a piece of art or an interactive thing that was displayed in the middle of like New York City on a wall, like, or something like that. Like I would love to do stuff like that, and I'm going to sort of work towards creating like really things that people talk about that are in spaces that people where they don't usually happen. I would love to do that kind of thing so much.
So how do
so that's kind of where I see, because a lot of those are just like relationships, getting to know people and that sort of thing, which just takes time and takes creating lots of different types of media. And so that's kind of where I see myself in 10 years, like getting involved with specific types of people.
Yeah. I was going to say, how do you work towards that? Is it networking primarily?
Making lots of stuff. You just make lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. And then whenever somebody somewhere is going to do a project, they're like, oh, I want to do this project. Who should we get to do it? Look at this guy. Look at all the stuff he makes. Look how prolific he is. We'll ask him. Or they'll ask somebody else, this is how I get most of my jobs. And they'll be like, I'm too busy. You should get him to do it. So this is the 2 degrees of, So that's kind of all it is. You just make lots of stuff, and then people just notice it. And because of the small world effect too, where it's like, you can even make just like an okay game, and someone will play it who's probably friends with someone like really successful, prolific, or who has access to a magazine or a distributor or something like that. And then if it's at the right time, they might contact you. So making stuff is the result. A lot of people want to get contracts secure before they make stuff, but that's another one of those like things you have to like give up, like you have to, which is just basic risk taking 101. But